Seán. I head up the data and engineering team here at Precision. Worked this market for 12 years. And yeah, purpose of this is just to fill you guys in on what's been going on. Obviously, I'm saying the market has changed more in the last 18 months than it has in the last 20 years. It's hard to put a finger on what exactly is going on. And yeah, it can be frustrating for job seekers. And I see it from both sides of the table, meeting with execs and heads of and chief data officers, founders and whatnot. So I'm hearing directly from people who are at the forefront of these transformations. And then obviously a lot of people I have out interviewing for me. I can collate data from various different avenues and portray it back to help people understand what's going on and how to, I suppose, best get the best out of your experience in the market. If you haven't received a copy of the micro report itself, just drop me a note on LinkedIn after. I'll share it to everyone directly to have a good read through. So the slides are just a pretty much synopsis of the micro report. I think there's 10 pages or so in the report. It's pretty meaty. So this will be a high level overview of it. And obviously at the end, I'll give you guys 5-10 minutes to ask any direct questions or anything that you really want to know. So thanks for joining. We'll start with AI because it's obviously, I say it's wrecking my head. It's wrecking everyone's head. No one knows what's going on. I'm sick to the death of hearing the word and people's opinions. And from my side, I obviously do the podcast as well. So I've got different angles, different opinions, probably too much information for my own good as to what people think is going to happen and how it's going to transpire. I think across the market, the sentiment is still the same. I think specifically the Australian market, I'll just pull this number out of my head, but I would say 80% of companies aren't actually set up for a successful AI journey. And that obviously always boils back to the fundamentals, which is for anything is vital to make sure that you've got your foundations of everything right before you build, whether it's a house, data platforms, whatever it is. If you're building on uncharted territory without looking and making sure the foundations are right, things are going to go wrong down the line. What I'm seeing on it, like there are companies who are getting some value out of it. There are companies who are doing it right. There are companies who I'm meeting with and speaking to and crumbling inside as to what they're telling me they plan to do, and it's like it's not realistic. Obviously, redundancies are quite common right now in the market. I say to people, a daily rate contract, a permanent position, fixed term contract, none of them are safer than the other because 5 years ago, redundancies were unheard of. Well, 10 years ago, not really unheard of, but they weren't as common as they have been for the last 2-3 years. And I think it has a large part to play in execs' mindsets around how can we get the best value out of AI. The word on the street, which everyone is parading around, is AI is going to replace people. Execs get that into the mind. Like example, I met with a chief data officer recently enough who was telling me a funny story about their board that he's been given millions and millions to do these transformations, and his first protocol is to get governance right, get platform right, doing it the right way. But when he met with the execs are like, where's all this money going? Why are you using AI? Like, we want you to use AI. Mary over in X, Y, and Z is telling us about this and that. And I think there's a lot of FOMO where people are hearing one thing and thinking, shit, I'm missing out on this. Data engineering obviously remains the backbone of it. Like everything is built on a platform. There's companies who are doing agentic AI where they're building digital workers. I know a couple of those companies. I've worked with a couple of those companies. I probably won't engage with them moving forward. Not so much from an ethical perspective, but I think the tenure that I'm seeing in these companies, they're bringing in big players, and some of the best people in the country from that AI perspective are leaving very, very quickly because it's just too chaotic. Nothing is set up right for this. The businesses who are doing it right, in inverted commas, are, for example, let's say you've got a team of 10, 12 software developers, engineers, whatever it may be. Let's use it just pure off the cuff example. You've got 5 seniors, 3 juniors, 2 leads, and a program manager, for example. The ones who are utilizing it in the right way as we speak, and not getting rid of their whole team and having one person in there and having it a fully agentic AI business. I know there's some companies out there that are marketing themselves as, oh, we're going to be fully fledged agentic AI company by X date. The reality of that is that is great from a marketing perspective, and it's great to sound attractive, and it's great from their view. It's not going to happen. And what I'm seeing, the ones that are doing it right, you've got that team of 10. That might come down to a team of 4, where you've got 3 senior engineers and maybe a mid-level, just to keep and retain someone and not lose all the juniors out of the market, because obviously the GFC, we've seen that 12, 15 years ago, or however long ago it is at this stage, where there was a 4-year period where grads, juniors just were non-existent because companies weren't hiring them. So we don't want that to happen from a business perspective in the market, where nothing happens for those grads and juniors and they're all just put out into the wild and the market is kind of way too senior heavy. So just to touch back on what I said about the companies that are doing it right and that I've seen, that team of 10 might go down to a team of 4, 3 seniors, 1 mid-level, and the agents that they will build will cover the work of the other 6 who they've got rid of, but they will still have senior people at the forefront monitoring these agents, making sure the agents are not going wayward, and obviously it's got to be so right, the data that you put in there. And if you're a business, a large scale organization, and you're going fully fledged where you've got 1 developer looking at the whole agent system, it's just stretching way too thin. So the ones who are doing it right still have people at the forefront of it. Teams will shrink down the line. Like right now, nobody is set up to do that. There's very few companies in Australia who are actually taking that approach right now. And I think LinkedIn, there's a hell of a lot of fear mongering and a hell of a lot of false representation of what companies are and aren't doing. My dad always said, I think it's believe none of what you hear, half of what you see, and none of what you read. It's something like that. I don't know what exactly it is, but it's like right now that saying is more true than ever, because LinkedIn is a open source platform where people can just write whatever the hell they want, put whatever the hell they want, whether it's true or not. There's a lot of stuff that I see up there that I'm just like, what you're talking about is pure fear mongering to market your own product. And like, even with AI and recruitment, I'm the biggest advocate in the world that will never replace good recruiters. And I think there's one sentiment that's going around the market around, oh, I'm not getting seen for interviews. And I don't use AI in any way, shape or form to review any resume, and I'd never in a million years do it no matter what happens, because I need to know the people I'm representing. I need to know the companies that they've worked in. Yes, there are companies who are doing it in terms of having the like large scale companies, the ATS, and filtering it down. And it's a shame to see, because good people aren't actually getting an opportunity, where you've got, unfortunately, some people who are using OpenClaw, plugging that in, going to sleep, applying to 150 jobs while they're asleep, and it's just inundating job boards. So there is a lot of frustration from internal talent teams, and like, I think building relationships now with good recruiters is going to be very, very, very important for moving forward. I think it will get harder for job seekers if you follow the traditional path of apply. That's, as sad as it is, it's been inundated with spam, and I've advertised a couple of roles and I get quite frustrated at what I see come through. At the end of the day, I have to have a compassionate lens. These people are people, but a lot of the people that you see on LinkedIn who are complaining aren't doing themselves any justice. And what I mean by that is the CVs that they're pumping out, what they're writing in the CVs. You got to look at yourself in the mirror at times and ask, am I actually doing enough, or am I just flicking and hoping and then complaining because I'm getting frustrated? It's a full-time job looking for a job in a sense. So I could talk for days on the AI market. I'm a big advocate that people will be needed more than ever, and where people are talking about AI taking over the world, I think we're at least 10 years away from seeing anything fully agentic work. Again, Klarna, I always go back to that example. They're pay now later. The founder of Klarna said, I want to be Sam Altman's guinea pig, let go of 75% of the workforce. marketed that out that we're the first agentic company doing this. And then I think 12, 18 months later, he hired back in 50% of that headcount because customer satisfaction just plummeted for obvious reasons. So just going to go on to the data engineering side of things now as well. So just to set the scene, last financial year, I don't know exactly, I think it was 45 people that I'd placed across just purely data engineering. The breakdown of that was 70-30 in terms of daily rate contract and permanent. The contract market is, if there's any contractors out there or anybody listening who's contemplating it, it's right now it's very volatile. Usually you will be able to see, or I would have been able to see, runways, clear pathways, programs of we'll need X amount of contractors, and it was a bit more fluid. Whereas now it's I could get a call in 2 minutes, we need 3 contractors yesterday type thing, and then they'll start on a Monday. It moves so quickly, and there's no clear dynamic as to companies who have these roadmaps and plans as the contractors. It's a lot more sporadic in terms of shit. We know we're not going to hit X by X date. We need to get contractors in to help. So it's an unusual contracting market right now. I love contract recruitment because it's quick, it's fast, there's not much ambiguity behind it. But obviously, for people who are in that realm of engineers, there's two folds to it. Like it can be very difficult on the mental health being a contractor, but also can be very rewarding at the same time. The good news about the market is that there's a hell of a lot going on. I think last year I met nearly 300 heads of CDAOs, leaders within the industry, and there's a very, very positive sentiment around projects, new projects kicking off. Like I've got a hell of a lot of greenfield programs, all permanent. I don't think there's much appetite for businesses to bring in contractors to run the programs. You want to get permanent people in and then contractors to add to the program, because companies don't want to lose that IP. The platform demand, needless to say, Databricks is running rampant in the market. If you're an engineer out there, I would say 70% of the market is or will be on Databricks by the end of 2028. I do a lot of analysis on the market, and right now in Australia, I think there's 537 companies specifically who are on Databricks. Snowflake, I think there's 320 something. So it just shows where that is going. Like people are coming off Azure and going fully fledged into Databricks. It's been the bane of my life for the last couple of weeks with where the market is at from a talent perspective and a demand perspective. A lot of leaders are very hell-bent on bringing like-for-like employees in terms of when they go to market to hire, they want to make sure they've got the exact tools and skills as to the exact problems that they're having, which is causing more frustration for good engineers, because there's some people who I hear are interviewing for roles and I'm like, how did that person not get it? Because leaders are so fixated on, no, if they haven't worked in Databricks, they're not right for it, even if they've done a Snowflake transformation. And I use the analogy, if you have been an iPhone user for 15 years and you buy a Samsung, it's the exact same. It's the fundamentals are still there. But I think for people who are trying to break into that space, the certifications right now, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, I would have said they add zero benefit. But right now, nearly every second company who I'm speaking to who are hiring for Databricks or Snowflake or even Fabric, whatever it may be, that adds a hell of a lot of fuel to the fire from your application, even if you haven't used it in a real world working environment. The talent market right now has shrunk so much from high quality Databricks folk, Snowflake folk, that companies are starting to come to that realization that if they keep going in the way they're going and looking for people who've got specifics within Databricks, they're not going to be able to fill the role. So then the maturity is starting to, I suppose, realize people have felt enough pain in hiring, and they know that you're not going to find, like, I had an example of a business who were looking to implement Greenfield Databricks platform. And I sat in on the interviews because the people I was sending in were amazing, but what the company was looking for was someone who's done the DevOps element of it, the governance element of it, the AI element, the engineering, Unity catalog, like the full fulcrum of it. And it's an educational piece as well, because it is a new platform. So obviously with new things, there is a bit of hesitancy around it. But I think at the end of the day, businesses need to realize that you're not going to find a like for like of exactly what you set out on the market. And some managers that are interviewing for these platforms have not used these platforms themselves in an engineering capacity. And it's very evidential that they are using ChatGPT or Claude to generate the questions that they want to ask. So there's a lot of friction in the market. There's a lot of frustration in the market from that perspective. Everyone is going onto these platforms. So the note from my side on that would be is get certified on it. Do certifications. It will add a hell of a lot to your application and the substance of your application. And it's probably the first time I've ever said, go get certified. Like as I said a few years ago, if I seen a certification, it meant absolutely nothing. Anybody can do it. I've got a Databricks certification, 2 of them actually. But moving into the higher layers of the architecture pieces, get certified is the message. I've kind of touched on this as well in terms of what managers are looking for. It's frustrating as an engineer looking for a job, trying to break into this. It's like, well, if I'm not having the opportunity to get in, and I haven't had the opportunity to work in these platforms in my previous role, but I've done absolutely everything bar that, what do I do? How do I get the opportunity? So again, certifications will give you that opportunity. One thing I want to point out is the CVs as well. There's a lot of, bluntly speaking, crap that comes in from a CV perspective. I'm seeing some CVs where there's a full page shopping list of every single tool under the sun that they've ever seen, heard, looked at, used in university. Strip it back. Give yourself $1 for every word that you take out of your CV. Don't information overload. People like to brain dump and put absolutely everything on it and almost type out what they're talking. Just peel it back, put time into it, do a good CV, have a good structure. If you're wondering, is my CV up to scratch? Drop me a note on LinkedIn, send it to me, and I can send you a template CV of the best way to layer it out. But don't put in every single technology under the sun. Put in what you've used the last 4 or 5 years, tailor it a little bit for jobs. But I don't like when I see like every different technology under the sun. It doesn't add any benefit to your application. And 9 times out of 10, people would say no, swipe, whatever it may be. So that's the job seeker side of things. It's frustrating from 2 sides because, again, the open cloud mass applications, and then on the flip side, them people aren't actually getting seen, the good peoples within those mass pools. So it's difficult on that sense as a job seeker. So again, recruiter relationships, very important. Make yourself known, ask them for coffees, do what you can do. It can be frustrating. Like my LinkedIn inbox, I do a lot of content on LinkedIn. If I don't get back to some people, I'm sorry. I've got 40, 50 messages coming in a day. It's extremely hard to manage. But it's good because people are active. There's a lot going on. It's just hard for me as one to manage it. But build those relationships with recruiters, keep networking, and like recruiters now, good recruiters are more important than ever for you to be able to get back in the door, because we're here to vouch for you. We want to put good people into good jobs. So yeah, that's an important one. Skills in demand, I've touched on that as well. The 3 platforms are running riot. A lot of companies do plan to get away from like even Synapse. I've heard people start to call Synapse and Data Factory legacy at this stage, which is pretty mad because it's still relatively new and still is fully operational and functional and gets results. So that's people's mindset. Everyone wants to go onto these platforms. Things are a lot easier on the platform. So it's heading down that route. DBT is one to really look at. I really like it. I've done a podcast with the staff solution architect from DBT. There's one coming out, DBT Fusion. I don't know if it's out or if it's really published around, but it's phenomenal for people who have large workloads. You've got it's inevitable people are using AI for code to help and speed things up. There's nothing wrong with that. But DBT Fusion is actually able to catch bugs through large, like say you've got 5,000 rows of Python as an example that you've pumped out from a legacy migration, you've put it into Claude, whatever you're using. When you plug it into Fusion, it can actually preempt, you've got errors here, you've got errors here, so you don't need to manually do it. It's something to definitely look at. Unless people have specific questions on AI, I'm going to leave a few minutes. I'll probably take over till about 1:05 just to give a few extra questions or whatever it may be. But unless people have specific questions on AI, pop them into the chat. I think I've given my sentiment on that. There are good use cases, but I just think it's way too immature. A lot of businesses right now to be going down that fully fledged AI route. Get the data right, get your foundations right. I like the analogy, you don't build a house with the chimney on top, get your foundations right. There, that was the next slide. Foundations matter. I think I won't speak on that anymore, AI, because I'm a firm believer that you've got to have your data foundations right. And as a job seeker, it's more important, like, even if you are out work or you're looking for work, do your due diligence, because there's a lot of companies saying one thing and when you go in, it's the total opposite. So making sure that you're doing your due diligence, making sure that you know what you're walking into. For example, you're going into an AI engineer role. I've seen and I've heard companies hiring for AI engineers. It's a data engineer in disguise because AI engineer sounds cool and sexy or whatever it may be. So the talent shortage is causing frustration. It's causing confusion. The mass of applications, it's just causing a lot of slowdown in processes. Like typically a permanent process would have taken 4 to 6 weeks. For me as a recruiter, it is still taking 3 to 5 weeks to complete sometimes. But from what I'm hearing outside, companies 12, 16 weeks to fill a permanent role, which is outrageous. So that is that one. Salaries are ticking back up, which is the first time I've seen in probably 4 years, which is good news for everyone. Daily rates as well are ticking back up. Supply and demand, right? You've got, for the last 3 years, there's been a lot of companies able to dictate, whereas now it's good people are being recognized for what their capability is from a salary perspective. Again, the contract market, very, very choppy. Data engineering contract market. I'm seeing a hell of a lot more on the report side of things from a contract. So whether it's Power BI developers, data modelers, whatever it may be. I'd say so far this financial year, since January, I've done 7 contractors and 1 perm. All the contractors have been BI developers, from Fabric, Power BI, data modelers. Industry specific for data, very widespread. There's not one, like obviously energy, utilities, etc. are booming, but like the likes of retail, everywhere's bubbling, which is good. So it's a positive sign as to where things are going, and salaries are ticking up with that. So if you've got any questions, pop them in the chat bar, and I will answer them. Don't be shy. Anything you want to know. If not, just pop off.
Sorry, Sean, can I just ask?
Yeah.
My horse?
Crack on, yeah. Marketing tell me to get them into the chat box because they want to use it as marketing. But yeah, I'm happy to chat. Hey,
Yeah.
Chris.
It's probably good if I try and type it, I'll make no sense of it.
Yeah.
I guess one of the things I'm interested in is, so there's kind of our tier and the jobs that we're applying for, the jobs that we're looking at. And then the tier above us, where traditionally you might have, like I would report into a head of data platforms. Is that horizon kind of shifting where there's no, because obviously the field with AI, you're able to do more, you're able to achieve more. I have agents that I've built to make my life a bit easier, but I'm still at core a data engineer. I like building stuff. But it means I can cover more of the horizons, which means the person above me, I'm starting to see a shift in that. So there's less of a head of data platforms because now the senior engineer is kind of covering more of that. And the person I'm reporting into now might be more of they bring someone in who's like, the AI. He's the guy that's going to launch AI in the business and stuff. And you kind of then subject to their kind of knowledge and experience that doesn't necessarily have much kind of experience across data platforms specifically. Are you kind of seeing any trends in that layer?
Yeah, definitely. Companies want more out of people they're bringing in, and a lot of people hiring want hands-on, like data platform architecture managers, data engineering managers that are still like the case by case, right? You could have someone who wants it to be 80-20 hands-on people management, or the polar opposite, 20% people management, or 20% hands-on, 80% people management, and have a bigger team underneath. So if people are trying to do it lean, it's going to be that 80-20 hands-on people management. And then if it's a bit of a bigger widespread team with more engineers and DevOps people in it, it might be a little bit that way. But I think the answer on the layer above that, it's a strange one. Again, case by case basis, but I think there's a pivot towards heads of being a lot more AI focused, and that chief AI officer coming in, because obviously Albanese and all the AI laws that he's put in, there's going to be a bit more scrutiny around it. But at the end of the day, I think where you're at, Chris, I think your level is a very good level to be at, but remaining hands-on is highly important, because if I say to anyone at your level, Chris, or anyone who's at that data architecture manager or has led teams, been in heads of positions and kind of still wants to stay on the tools, that going away from the tools now is, in my view, the stupidest thing you can possibly do, because you're going to miss out on so much. And that layer above, don't touch anything. It's pure strategic strategy, like building out the enterprise-wide roadmap and what they think is best fit. And then the layer underneath are the doers. So it is becoming leaner and leaner, but those heads of are to be pure AI strategic, a lot more strategy focused, dealing with the board papers, exec meetings, feeding into the board or the senior execs, CFOs, CEOs, whatever it may be. But it's I haven't got a fully formed view on that. It's still, there are large companies that have that bit of a legacy mindset, and then the newer businesses are shifting that way a hell of a lot, getting your data managers, let's just call it data managers, to build these platforms. So staying at the forefront of platform builds, the architecture layers right now for you is very important. Mark?
Yeah, I'm just conscious of the time, Sean. So I'm happy to send it an email. But yeah, so my main question was about those sort of the hiring manager challenges. I think it was like the second to last slide. Something really stood out about the sort of we need someone highly, highly specific that ticks all of these boxes, as opposed to people who are just have good fundamentals across all of those sort of general skill sets, whether they've got a bit of experience with AI modeling, whether they've done a lot of the data modeling, whether they've done a lot of DBT and SQL, but they haven't used exactly the same backend as like what this client is using, et cetera, et cetera. So how do you sort of reconcile the two? Because on the one hand, your perspective as a recruiter is that like, hey, good generalists who tick 80% of the boxes are still going to be potentially very good fits, which is sort of the vibe I was getting from you. But this seems to be slightly like not on the same page as what like I'm seeing in this kind of in the blue box here. So sort of what's your take? Is it like you're just trying to like kind of bridge the two worlds a little bit? You're getting frustrated at the hiring managers.
Yeah.
I just wanted you to expand a little bit on that dynamic. This is why kind of gelling in my mind, like what exactly is going on there.
I'll try to keep it short because I could talk for days on that. So I don't know what is in people's minds at that leadership level. Obviously, you know the structure of a business. It comes from execs with COO, CIO, blah, blah, blah. Some of them are not technical. When I say about that FOMO piece, they want to run with AI, they want to do X, Y, and Z. They're feeding it down to the management, the heads of, the managers, those managers might be afraid to make decisions hiring wise. It all comes back to the hiring manager if the program blows up, whether it's the COO, the sponsor, CIO, the manager who's running the program is going to get the blame if things go wrong. Nobody wants to make a bad hire. Companies, for whatever reason, what I'm seeing, set out to hire in whatever it may be, data engineer, DBT, Python, blah, blah, blah. When they go to interview or when they're looking at talent pools or whatever it may be, I'm seeing and hearing a lot of companies basing their interviews specifically around the problems that that specific company has and the tools that they're using, which is the total wrong approach, because you're not going to get anything out of that person. If you're basing, whether it's you're doing definition questions on the tools you've got, or whether it's asking everything tailored around your problem and not trying to identify what Mark can bring to the table from what he's done, nobody's 100% right for any role. Anyone who sets out with this dream picture, rarely you hire exactly 100% of what you set out to do. So my frustrations is kind of twofold on it. One, execs are putting pressure on managers to hire in and not make bad hires. You've got to make this right. There's a lot of money on this. There's a lot of pressure in it. Obviously, after the COVID days, you've got that 2-year window where the market was bad, cash flow wasn't easy, interest rates were high, money was tight. Now it's starting to come back a little bit more. There's money to play with a little bit. They don't want to make mistakes based on the scars they have from them periods. So half my job is trying to educate, in a sense, managers that it's like, I'd love to run an event on it and just have like a full open forum on what's going on, because it, like, when I'm saying data engineering as such, if I'm going off topic, pull me back, because I want to make sure I answer that question for you, because it's an important one. I think there's a lot to it, but leaders are afraid to make mistakes. When they set out with their dream hire, they maybe will have an 8-week runway where they'll do interviews, blah, blah, blah. He's not right, he's not right, he's not right, he's not right, he's not right. Then they get pressure from the board. Why haven't you hired? And it's like, well, I've interviewed all these people and they're not right. And then they might go back to someone, or they might have more interviews locked in for the following week. Because of the pressure on the board, they might make a panic decision and hire someone who's maybe not right, because they might have that 80%, but they're not willing to make that adjustment at the start of the process. Like, I know your profile as well, Mark, your quality of what you do. But I think the problem, it's one of those, it's not you, it's them. And unfortunately, there's different strokes, different folks in different companies. And it's, I think just, again, it can be frustrating tailoring your resume, and it's a full-time job looking for a job. And it's even more so, it's like a full-time job on overtime right now looking for a job with the way things are. And there's just so much to play behind the scenes. Like, it's not as what it once was, where 10 years ago I would have advertised the role and I maybe get 30 applicants, 10 of them are class, 10 of them maybe not so good for that specific role, but are really good. But whatever has happened in the last 5 years with COVID, redundancies, there's so many people on the market, there's so much noise on the market, and talent teams are just being inundated, overworked, overrun, and frustrated. So they're literally being so selective. Like, my job as a recruiter ultimately is to put the best people in front of my clients. And if I have 500 people applying, ringing me, reaching out, I wouldn't be able to give my client the best service if I'm tendering to every Tom, Dick and Harry who's applied and trying to help. As much as I'd love to help absolutely everyone, it's just not virtually possible to be able to. Unfortunately, there's a lot of lower grade people who apply for high grade jobs, in a sense. So it's just causing a lot of noise, a lot of frustration. And you've got companies who are willing to make sacrifices on some things when it's not true a recruiter. Like, I can vouch for people a lot. When I meet with people, I can sell what they've done. I can compare the Snowflake versus Databricks. Like, if they've done X, Y, and Z, they can do this. Even at that, I still get pushback. It's like they want their 10 out of 10 when they go to market. Sometimes they might get it. Great. If they've been burnt 8-10 weeks down the line, they might make a panic hire because of the pressure from the board. So it's probably a coffee conversation to continue this one, Mark.
That's all right. But I think like the takeaway for candidates is like in terms of tailoring like your profile, is more like focus on the commercial outcomes. Of course, pay like whatever lip service is necessary to your technical skills, and sort of let the recruiter like think of them as your partner. Like it's up to the recruiting to sort of bring the client more to sort of get the client to let go of some of those super specific things on the checklist and be like, well, you've got to potentially here are a few quality candidates with experience in similar types of projects, and they tick most of the technical fundamentals.
Yeah. Like ultimately,
I can do because I don't know who played this.
yeah. So it's different with different recruiters, you know. Like every recruiter has their own style. I've interviewed a lot of recruiters to join the team and help me out. I'm not going to bash anyone. I'm not going to bash myself. Different strokes, different folks, different people do different things different ways. Some are good, some are bad, some are really bad, some are amazing, some are 10 out of 10. Ultimately, when I go to market to get a job, a lot of the roles that I work won't be actually on a company page. They'll come straight to me because they want to not go through that whole chaos noise feed. And it's like, Seán, I'm paying you a fee for a good service. I want the best 3 or 4 people, no time wasting, and I want this. 9 times out of 10, maybe 8 times out of 10, I'll get them 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10. Sometimes you'll find the exact 10 out of 10 person that they're looking for. Yeah. So ultimately, I've got to be selective as well. And I can't put someone as a first shortlist to a client who's not what they've asked for. I won't have clients that way. So that's why I like to know as much about people as I can, the industries, what they've done, because I'm dealing with 2 sides of the table, candidates who want jobs and they're saying, I can do this, give me a chance, that blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, the client, I know what the client has asked me. Sometimes what clients ask is totally absurd. I've got to deliver for them ultimately, you know? So it's about working with people, not against people. And at the end of the day, what's right for you won't pass you by, you know? It's like, you've got a good CV. A lot of people have good CVs, but it's just about being patient, and also it is bashing your head off a wall at times. You know, what the fuck's going on? So look, I'm just conscious of time, Mark. I'm happy to have a longer chat with you. I know you've reached out to me over email. I'll follow up with you later today or tomorrow. I'll have a bit more of a bigger chat on it. But look, I got to shoot. Thanks everyone for jumping on, and hope you got some value out of it. Follow up on LinkedIn if you want the report sent directly, or it is on the Precision website. You can just download it yourself. Either or, let me know. But thanks again, guys. Have a good one.